Welcome to my channel, CaitMakes, the channel where I make things. Today we are going to be making some DIY sewing tools. Specifically, I'm going to be making myself some cute pin cushions. So I am going to make two different kinds today. I'm going to make one that is going to attach to my sewing machine and then one that's going to go on my wrist. Currently my only pin cushion is this beauty. This, of course, is the classic tomato pin cushion. If you or anyone in your life sews, you have seen one of these. This is just not the vibe. This is not fun. And it's pretty inconvenient. It rolls around, it doesn't stay still. Basically, my pins either end up in a little pile by my sewing machine, which then magically end up on the floor somehow because that's what pins do, or I'll have some in my mouth. This is just not doing the job for me. So I've seen lots of people with the cute wristband ones and I feel like that would be super useful. And then the one for my sewing machine I know is going to get a ton of use. I just finished up with the project, so I have the customary pile of pins right here. So having one that attaches to my sewing machine on the front like this, I think is going to be great. The other fun thing about this is I want to use my fabric scraps. I am big about waste and trying to be as sustainable as possible, so I keep all my fabric scraps. I have been saving them up for a rainy day for a project. This is by no means going to use up all of them, but I think that this will put a little dent in them, which will be nice. And then the fabric that I'm going to be using to create both of these is going to be this, which if you have watched my videos before, you have seen this fabric. I recently made a bustier dress out of this fabric that I loved. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it. Make sure to check it out. I have a lot of tiny scraps and a couple bigger ones, and I think it will be just the right amount of fabric to make these two pin cushions that I have in mind. Yeah, that is my plan for today. Just a nice, very useful project. So I hope you enjoy. I hope that if you also have a sad little tomato, maybe this will inspire you to make something a little more fun, something a little prettier maybe. And yeah, let's get into this project. Okay, the first one I want to do is the one for my sewing machine. I am very excited about this one. I think it's going to be a little easier than the wrist one too, so we're going to start off with the easier option here. This isn't going to be the size, this is going to be halved so that it's finished off nicely, but basically there's going to be a strip of fabric that sits around it like this that I'm going to attach at the back either with a button or Velcro. And then I'm going to have a little pin cushion that I'm going to attach to that strip of fabric. So I think that that's going to work great. I am going to go ahead and serge these edges of this fabric just to make it easier to work with because as you can see, it frays like crazy. Okay, so now I have this nice and pressed. I've never actually done a buttonhole before, so I just did some Googling and learned how to do it. So I did a bunch of testers here on this little strip. Now that this is sorted out, I am going to go ahead and do the buttonhole first since I have it all set up. I want it to sit as low as possible on the machine. I'm going to do it vertical like this, and I think I want it as close to this seam as possible so that, you know, this isn't sitting loose or anything. I went ahead and marked where the button needs to be by putting it around the machine and just seeing where the buttonhole and the fabric met up. So I am going to go ahead and hand sew this little button on. Okay, button is sewn on. Perfect. And then I'll just push this to the back. Awesome. Nice and sturdy. I've cut out two little ovals here that I'm going to sew together, right sides together. I'm going to leave a little gap and then I'm going to stuff it full of scraps and then I will attach it here. Okay, so I think that's going to be perfect. Okay, here's my scrap box, which is currently overflowing. I have scraps from all my mini projects. And yeah, I'm just going to grab a bunch of them. Okay, I think this will work. So I am going to tuck all this craziness in and hand sew the rest of this closed, and then I will have a cute little pouch that I'm going to use as a pincushion. I'm going to go ahead and mark where I want the center of it to be, and then I'm going to hand sew this onto this little strap as well. All right, this feels pretty sturdy. I think this is good to go. Transferring all of these from my little tomato over here. And yeah, I think this works great. Yay, I'm so happy with that. First pincushion is completed and I love it. It is so useful already. It makes me so happy. And now today we're going to be making the wrist version. So I've gone ahead and cut out this nice long strip of the same fabric because I want to match, because cute. And it's about probably over twice the length that it needs to be. But I want to use elastic for this one. I think that'll be easiest, just be able to slip it on and off and not have to fuss with a button doing it one-handed. That sounds annoying. So I'm going to put this right sides together, sew along here to make a channel for the elastic. And then my plan for the pincushion portion, this is a tip that I got in my comments, was to use like something metal like a lid to make sure that you have a block so that you don't accidentally stab yourself in the wrist, which is something that I would do. If you've noticed this band-aid on my finger, just know that I am very clumsy and I definitely need this block. So I want to put this little tomato to good use, because just because it's not cute doesn't mean it's not useful. So my plan is to kind of put this on here, and then I think I'm going to fill in like the extra gaps with some more scrap material like I did for my last one. And then I am going to put a piece of fabric over top like this, and then it's going to end up looking sort of like that in like a little kind of rounded cone shape, and that should be perfect, and it should be able to sit on my wrist like that. And I think that that will be really cute. The only thing I'm toying with is like how best to do this. I think the way that will have the least amount of bulk is if I, really trim this and then hot glue it to the lid. Obviously hot gluing is not really a sewing project, but the wrist part is. We're gonna see. I'm gonna test it out if we need to like maybe hot glue it and then reinforce it with stitches. I don't know. We're gonna play around and see what works for this. But I think overall, the idea is sound. So I'm gonna go ahead and start on the wristband portion, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, I'm going to go iron this so that the seam is centered in the back like this. So that will be the part that rests against my skin. So then you'll just see the pretty part on the front. Okay, ironed nice and flat. And then I am going to just fold in the ends like so. So here I basically just kind of open up the tube and then fold in the frayed edges. Takes a second. And then it's nice and smooth and clean. Next up, I need to figure out how long I want this elastic. Basically just want to do my wrist length with a little bit of tension. I don't want it too tight, but I do want it firm enough so that, as I'm putting pins in and taking them out, it's not going to be wiggling around on my wrist. So I think this should be good. I'm overlapping it a bit just so I have room for seam allowance and to have a little bit hanging out of each end when I put it through. So I think that's good. I'm going to cut that there. Pin this so that it doesn't move. It's pretty cute. I might have to make myself a scrunchie because this fabric looks way cute like that. I could maybe wear it with my dress. Anyway, one project at a time here. Okay, now I am just going to go ahead and sew these down on each side, and then we can get it connected. Okay, so I was just going to cross these over and sew it together, but that isn't the prettiest of finishing. And also that fabric is going to be super thick and I'm not trying to break a needle today. So I had another thought. I have some bias tape here and instead I think I'm just going to use this to sew it together and then sew it on so it'll have this little blue strip at the back. Okay, to make this easier on myself, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a zigzag stitch to get these two pieces connected like so. We'll see how that goes. Not the most beautiful, but it worked. Well, since I used pink thread, I don't know if that's that much prettier than what I had before, but you know, I'm gonna call it okay on that because it's just going to be a pin cushion. It's really not that serious. Okay, so we have a finished little scrunchie, basically, and now we need to work on the harder part. I think it's time to warm up my hot glue gun. It has been a long while since I've used a hot glue gun, but I am going to go ahead and hot glue the tomato to my little lid here. See how well it sticks. I think that's going to work. Clearly there isn't a lot of method to the madness here. I just really want to fill up this space and put my scraps to use. So yeah, this will work. Now you may be thinking, why didn't I just use a smaller tin? Because then I wouldn't have to do this. Well, the answer is, this is the size of tin that I had from the jars that I use. I think that might be good. Looks, you know, kind of crazy and messy right now, but once I put the fabric over, I think it will do the job. I'm thinking now that I should cut out a little, like, circle of fabric and either sew it on top or hot glue it on top, and then that will kind of close all this stuff in. You know, that might do it. I think I just have to go for it here. I'm going to put hot glue all around and just try and quickly press it down. Wish me luck. Not too bad so far. I think I'll look at that as like round one. Got my fingers a little bit, of course, because that is the joy of hot glue. It's very possible that there is a much better way to do that, but it's worked. So now I'm going to cut out a circle of fabric and I'm just going to hot glue that on top of here, hopefully more gracefully than I did that, but yeah, just to kind of cover it up. Yay, I think that looks cute. So I kind of need it to be a circle with seam allowance. I'm going to try a basting stitch all the way around and use that to kind of gather it up. Okay, push up to 5, which is my longest stitch length. Let's see if this works. Yeah, that made a pretty good circle. So I think I might go ahead and do a little bit of hot glue just to kind of flatten this first, and then I'll attach it onto here. Oh, I think that turned out pretty nice, actually. I'm very happy with that. Give it a little test. Oh, and it works great. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Now it's time to connect it to our little bracelet here. Now the question is, should I have sewn this onto this little circle before I glued it on? Probably. That probably would have been much easier for me. So, you know, do as I say, not as I do. Probably attach that to the center first. I ended up sewing it in the middle and then on the 2 sides as far off as I could, and then I also gave it a couple stitches attaching this little circle to the outer fabric here, and it feels really sturdy. I think it's good, as sturdy as it can be. I probably could have done with a slightly bigger piece of fabric just because this is so big and it is kind of weighty. It does work. I am actually really pleased with it. I think it's super cute. I love that I got to use this fabric again. It works really well on the sides, like where it's just the fabric too. So yeah, I think this is pretty dang good. This is exactly what I was hoping for. So pleased with how this turned out. It's definitely stable enough, like I can do, you know, whatever pinning I need to do. If I had used a larger band and done like a larger scrunchie, I think it would be a little more stable, but this is like totally doable and usable, and I think it's so cute. That makes me so happy. Such like a tiny thing that just is bringing me joy. So definitely recommend. It really wasn't too bad, not too hard. It could be done without a hot glue gun if you don't have one. I think that the method I used for that little circle and just doing like a gathered stitch would have worked for that top one too. A great way to use up your scraps. I'm so happy that this was just 100% free and put my scraps to good use. I love this so much more than that silly little tomato. And yeah, just way more useful, and I'm so excited about the sewing machine one too. I also love that they'll like match as I'm working on my projects. If you're looking for a scrap buster, or if you just want to make your sewing tools a little cuter and more aesthetic, then I think this is a great project. If you're in like a sewing slump, or if you've just done like a stressful project, highly recommend doing, you know, something small like this to just have a nice peaceful crafting day. I was listening to an audiobook the whole time, and it was just like a really fun, peaceful sewing project. Sometimes we need those. Some sewing projects have some stress to them, and and some are really peaceful. It totally depends, but yeah, sometimes I think if you do a couple stressful ones in a row, it can really like wear you down. I feel like if you kind of balance the sewing projects, like difficult and then easy, difficult and easy, it helps with the momentum. It helps every project still feel like a lot of fun. So yeah, definitely recommend. I'm super pleased with these. I hope you enjoyed coming along on this little journey with me, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.